If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? And welcome to another edition of the Ron and Don Show. And we are back live in the Team Lisa.com studios for all your mortgage needs.
What is up, Ron and Don Nation?
Hey, coming up on the Ron and Don Show, let's get to the top 5 at 5.
Ron and Don's top 5 at 5.
5, 3, 2, 1.
I don't do this unless it's a real issue. I'm going to stop the show right now. This is a big technical. I'm going to stop the show in the middle of the top 5 at 5.
Well, the beginning of the top. We haven't even started the show, but
That's
we're stopping the show.
Here we go. Let's stop. Did we stop it?
It stopped.
Okay, very good. Hey, real quick, you and I went to the McGinnis School of Driving in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which, by the way, one of those guys ended up going to the penitentiary. One of the other brothers, I think, committed suicide. Someone killed somebody. But, boy, were they great driving instructors, right? They were great.
And they had some cool cars.
They did. They had very cool cars. You could go out in the Mustang, too.
Yeah, you know the thing.
You could go out.
A red Mustang. I remember that.
They had a Jeep. It wasn't a Wrangler then. It was a CJ7 and a CJ5. A lot of the cars that they had were sticks. So you would learn. You would learn to drive with a clutch.
I'm just going to say this: that one of the instructors was educated at the Matthew McConaughey. All right school of dating.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yeah. Let's
he
say that.
gets older, they say the same age.
I don't think that guy's around. In fact, I don't think McGinnis is around anymore.
Okay, probably because of that reason.
But this was in New Mexico, and the thing is, you had to go to class all the time. And going to class, at every single class, they would scare the hell out of you. And the way that they would scare the hell out of you is by showing you movies, because there's no internet then. So this would be back 82, 83, somewhere in there. And do you remember watching the film? I think it was called Red Crush. Did you watch Red Crush?
There was some movie about an automobile accident. I don't know
what
the
they would
name
do
of
is
it.
they would go through and they would show you automobile accidents, and they would show you the actual pictures of how people died. And one of the pictures, and I was very concerned about this because my dad had been a truck driver, and I thought when I was younger, hey, maybe I'll drive an 18-wheeler, right? So it's a guy in an 18-wheeler, and he's up in the cab of the truck. He ends up in an accident. He has to throw on his brakes because he gets cut off by a car. He throws on the brakes, and he's a suicide jockey. Do you know what a suicide jockey is?
I have no idea.
A suicide jockey, and my father taught me this when I go trucking with him, is someone that is carrying some form of propane or gas, right? So it's not a milk truck. It's a big cylinder that you carry.
It's a big bomb.
Yeah. So anyway, he throws on his brakes. The suicide jockey does. He's a truck driver. There's a lot of truck drivers out there that won't drive that stuff around. Like if you get in an accident, you're probably dead, and it's going to blow. So that's what happened. Not only did the truck end up blowing up because a load shifted in the back, but then they opened up the door, and you have a picture of this truck driver, this suicide jockey, that's been completely sizzled. And when you see something like that, and then you jump in one of the McGinnis's cars and you go out to drive.
At 15 years
when
old.
When you're in a 35, you are going 12 miles an hour because you're so afraid you're going to cut off an 18-wheeler.
Well, the thing that got me, and I have a vivid memory of this, do you remember it was either called the Stopper or the Crasher?
No.
And it was a little sled. And so on this sled, maybe 12 feet long, 15 feet long. So it's a little sled, and on one side is a car seat with a steering wheel. And so you would sit down in this thing, and the guy would say, "Are you ready for the stopper?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Sure." And so what they would do is he would hit a lever, and you would start rolling towards the other end of the track because it was on an incline. And when you hit that track, you had no brakes, nothing. And it was supposed to simulate like a 15-mile-an-hour crash.
Yeah.
And so you would roll pull down the thing and just boom, and it would like stop you really fast.
Yeah.
And like at the end of that, you're like, that was a 10 or 15 mile an hour crash. It was an incredible amount of force that would like whiplash your head. Even if you're trying to hold it back and like trying to be a tough guy, it would still and sort of smack you up against the steering wheel a little bit.
Yeah.
And that one had more of an impact on me, the stopper, than the movies did as well. I remember the movies. But yes, we had to do in-person class. I think now to save money, or it might be a state thing, I believe you can get the educational part at school, a lot of the schools, and then you're supposed to drive with somebody, a licensed driver, instead of an instructor.
That's right. So my son went to a place called Swerve. And first of all, and I brought this up before, and he just got his license finally. This is
Congratulations.
He went to a place called Swerve. I didn't want to send him to a driving school called Swerve. Who came up with Swerve? That seems like a really bad. Doesn't it seem like a bad name for a
Welcome
driving
to
school?
Fast and Furious Driving Academy.
I had to go in and check him in, and I think I shared part of this story before. While we're in checking him in and getting signed up for Swerve, this family van pulls up, and it's just been completely destroyed on the door side where you open and close it. So you can't open and close the door. And one of the instructors gets out, and this kid gets out, and I'm like, "Hey, what's that over there?" And they say, "Oh, well, that's one of our Swerve vans." And I'm like, "Oh my God, looks like they didn't swerve, right?" So anyway, that's exactly right. You're supposed to go in. You can go in a classroom setting or a Zoom setting. You take these tests, and then you go on 5 drives with them, and the drives are like between 10 and 12 minutes. You're supposed to log 50 hours of driving, and then you go and you take your test. So
do they still do the K-turn and the parallel parking and starting on a hill and all that stuff?
I thought so.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm driving with him, and I'm not practicing any of the K-turn stuff, and I'm not really practicing any of the parallel parking because I'm like, well, they're teaching them that at school, and so I'm doing the other stuff. Like, hey, this is where you want to flip somebody off really bad, and I usually do.
You're white-knuckling
because I'm in the car with you.
door.
I'm not going to do it, but that mother effer that just cut us off. That's the kind of driving instructor I am. That's why I almost hired Matt, because Matt is probably a lot calmer about it. So anyway, I would have to say at this point, I'm about to turn 60 next April, I don't think I'm going to die by having a heart attack, because I would have died already by having a heart attack riding with him. Because it is, and I don't care who it is, when you're sitting on the other side of the car and you have no control, it really freaks you out. So, nonetheless, he went and he took his test a number of weeks ago, and he got a 79. And I'm like, congratulations, you got a 79.
Is that a pass?
It's not a pass.
What's a pass?
Isn't a 79 a pass?
I thought it was a C.
A 79 should be a C, and that should be a pass, and that's good enough for me. As long as you're getting mostly A's and a B or 2 at school, that'll get us into the college you want to go to. A 79 seems like a pass.
Get that 80.
And then I get this sheet, and the sheet gives all these things that he's doing wrong, and I'm like, they're saying that he's overturning when he's going into an intersection. I'm like, it's not my job. I'm not one of them Guinness brothers.
Yes, you are.
I just paid a driving school $1,200. $1,200 to teach him how to drive, and he's oversteering. And I'm like, hey, well, what about the K-turn? What about parallel parking? And I look at he completely
There's no skills.
flunked parallel parking. So then what I had to do is say timeout and go over to his old middle school. I got out the cones. I put out I kid you.
Can I just interrupt here real quick?
I cannot believe I'm getting out the football cones to teach my son how to parallel
Let
park.
me interrupt because the majority of adults can still not parallel park.
Right.
I was waiting for the bus
Yeah.
for across from where I live in this beautiful parking space right there. This lady comes up. 1 attempt, 2 attempts, 3 attempts, 4. She finally gets it on the 4th attempt. She gets out and sees me watching her, and I'm like, nailed it.
Yeah. The Trader Joe's where you have to back in at the top of Queen Anne is the worst.
It's ridiculous.
And people, if you get upset with them and you honk their horn, they'll go slower. They'll go slower trying to put.
So a 16-year-old, they should be able to parallel park. It's difficult, though.
So we get all this figured out, and then I said, hey, because I wasn't going to mention that he flunked his first driving test because I didn't want him to be embarrassed about it. And he didn't seem to be embarrassed about it. And I'm like, why does it bother you? That he goes, no, like I'm a great test taker, and I am not about he can just be who you are. I'm not a 79 kind of guy. I'm anal about it. And if I don't get like when we took our real estate test, I knew I got 100. And then I went there and I said, what was my grade? And they said it's pass fail. I went, no! I wanted to know that I got 100 on my real estate test. And I know I did, and they would only tell me if I pass fail. And I think you had to get 70% on that. So nonetheless, he fails. Guess what? We go back to Swerve. Guess what they want?
$1,200.
More money. They want more money. Then they also tell me that his permit is about to expire and they're going to need more money for that. I went in to speak with them and I just said, hey, we're talking about you guys on our podcast the other day, which I wasn't. And I said, I think it's pretty outrageous that at 79 that he flunked his test. And what I hear is that on the second try, you guys pass everybody and that you flunk most people on their first test. I talked to 3 of his friends. They all have the same experience, not just at that place to drive, but at other places where they all flunked the first test. The driving school that didn't teach them how to drive then charges mom and dad more money, and in my case, dad, and then suddenly they pass. Now, we did go out, we did put the cones out, we did make sure we did some other things. But the whole time I'm sitting there going, this is a racket that you and I have to get in. We should start a driving school where we charge people, and we could call it Crash, for instance. Ron and Don's Crash Driving School. And then we don't teach you how to drive. And then on maybe the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th time, after you've paid us $5,000, we pass you and you're on your way. How about that?
Ron and Don's Top 5 Backfire.
Number 2.
History speaks volumes, Don. Other driving schools have come and gone, but after 60 years, McGinnis Driver Safety Centers continues to be the standard by which other driving schools are measured.
Read about what happened to one of the McGinnis brothers. I'd like to know because I remember reading it. Hey, real quick, have you seen the new Matt Damon movie?
Odyssey?
Yeah.
I have not. I've watched a lot of interviews around it. If you haven't seen, Matt Damon does an hour with Good Hang. It's the woman that was on. She used to be married to Will Arnett. She was on Saturday Night Live. Amy Poehler.
Is that a good podcast? I heard it's good.
It is good. Her little convention that she's trying to make different than everybody else. She brings on someone at the beginning of the show to talk good about a person behind their back. And then a friend or a coworker or somebody, and then to get a question from that person that she would have never known to ask.
Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
So for Matt Damon, she gets Christopher Nolan.
That's great.
And his wife's like walking around in the background to pop on, give a question, and then she's almost always has done something with these people. So like she had done Saturday Night Live with Matt Damon a bunch of times. So they have common, you can tell they just like each other. So I've seen a lot of stuff on him. Christopher Nolan I've been following since the student movie he made that was incredible. And then Memento was a mind blower, et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, he needs no introduction. Oppenheimer was a phenomenal movie. I want to go see it, but it's one of those things, I want to see it in IMAX, and I also want to see it when I have 3 hours to burn because it's a long movie.
Why are people flying? And my son and I went to see it, and I want to talk about it. Matt, have you seen it? Did you want to? And I promise I won't do any. I won't kill it. I do.
Spoilers. It's only a 3,000-year-old story.
Yeah. Well, if I told you something, it would spoil it for you.
At the end, you'd never believe it was that little girl killed all those people.
Yeah.
He was dead the whole time. It's crazy.
Yeah, I could spoil it for you. When you think about that movie, and you think about going to see it on IMAX, my understanding is on the like the super 70 IMAX screen that Christopher Nolan wants you to see it on, which is beyond the IMAX that I've seen. There's only 25 screens in America that have like this super IMAX, and people are flying to Los Angeles and they're watching it at 3 in the morning. One of the reasons it fired out of the blocks at $250 million worldwide on its first weekend is because you could sign up to see that movie at 3 a.m. in LA starting a year ago. That's when they started promoting it, right? So are you interested in seeing it on that, like flying somewhere and seeing it on one of the 25 screens?
Somewhere.
Or just an IMAX in general?
Well, here's the thing. I think there's probably a lot of people like me that have either dabbled or worked professionally in some sort of tech. Like, being in radio, I was a TV editor for a short stint, and when we were in Dallas, I've worked in television production. And so if you have any concept of the technical aspects of producing something like a movie like that, the IMAX thing is, you want to see it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's the biggest format available, so 70 millimeters. It's capturing more light and more depth. Number two is he wants to do as little CGI as possible. So, like, for instance, when they are going to the cave to have a Cyclops scene, they're actually in a cave. They went to where the cave, I think it's in Greece, where they say it's the site where they say this is where Zeus was born. Christopher Nolan's team set up, they wanted to film in that cave. Yeah. So Matt Damon talks about, having to hike up to the cave to go to work every morning. Like, you can't drive your car up there, you hike to a cave. So he goes out of his way. And like in the Batman movie with Heath Ledger, they literally blew up a building. They labeled it as the hospital, but it wasn't a CGI building that was blown up. They got a building and labeled it as a hospital, and he blew up the building.
Yeah, you don't...
So, like, he likes to do things real and, like, put a bunch of... And then the third thing that's interesting is the canister for the film in 70 millimeter. It's so big, you can only film for 2 minutes at a time. And so Anne Hathaway was talking about this scene where you're supposed to be very emotional.
She's great in this. Great.
You have to get the scene in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And so you have to be in this emotional state to where it's like... on a normal film set, they just keep rolling.
Yeah.
And like, you might shoot for 30 minutes to get that 2 minute scene. She has to get the whole thing in 2 minutes because then you got to change the film cartridge.
Yeah. I have to say, in watching the movie, Matt Damon is incredible. But at the same time as I'm watching the movie for 3 hours, and trust me, it could have been an hour and a half. You could have let some of that shiznit on the floor.
Time out. When did you become a movie guy? I've known you since I was a child, and I think you've seen like 5 movies. It was
really hot the other day, and I just wanted to be in air conditioning. So back to the show. Anyway, my son and I are watching this movie, and I did feel like the whole time I was watching Matt Damon, and I was expecting Ben Affleck to jump out as Batman and start kicking ass with Matt Damon. And in the fight scenes, I was looking for Russell Crowe. When Matt Damon was fighting, I'm like, this would be better if Russell Crowe was doing the fight scenes. So I love Matt's acting. I wish they could have switched it out and brought in a younger Russell Crowe to do the fight scenes.
Are you able to not say, "Oh, that's Anne Hathaway," or do you sit there?
I was able
to go, "Oh, that's Anne Hathaway."
The problem is with Tobey Maguire. He is Spider-Man. He's a great.
It's Tom Holland.
I'm sorry, Tom Holland. Same thing.
It's not the same guy.
Tom Holland.
Timothy Chalamet and Tom Holland. They're all the same guy.
And Tom Holland's wife is in it, and you never see Tom Holland and his wife interact much. And you're looking at her, and you go, well, that's Tom Holland's wife on the beach talking to Ben Affleck's friend, Matt Damon, and I wonder when Spider-Man's going to show up and start kicking some ass.
Ron and Don's Top 5 Back 5.
Number 3.
Go see it.
Sounds good right now. Some air conditioning.
Go see it on a big screen. Yeah, it's pretty hot in our studio today. Hey, where do you land on leaning back on a plane seat? I know that you're about to go on vacation here. What are your rules around leaning back? And I wouldn't call you a rude traveler, but you will definitely stand up for yourself and the people that you're traveling with. You definitely want to dress a certain way, present yourself in a certain way. You have great respect for the people that are running the airlines and standing. So you're not rude in that way. But how do you do with other passengers, especially as planes get bigger but seats get smaller, and the next thing you know, someone's reclining and they're basically back in your lap? That's one of the reasons why I like riding up front now, because you don't have to deal with that as much. It certainly costs a lot more money. But I'm willing to spend the money to ride up front if I'm going to go on a trip that's going to be 5-6 hours. How do you look at that? Because there's some controversy right now online about whether when you get on a plane it is courteous or okay to lean your seat back when you're back in coach or coach plus.
I think leaning back makes you a total a-hole if you
Me
go
too.
all the way back.
Yeah, what a jackwagon. I'm with you on that. Thank you.
There is a guy, and I wish I remember the name of the product.
I knew wrong.
Have you seen he sells this device. It's a little plastic wedge that you can jam into the person in front of you on the hinge point of the chair.
Yeah.
And it fits around the seat arm, and it basically blocks the person in front of you from leaning back.
Yeah.
I should buy one of those because that's a brilliant idea. I think you can lean back a little bit. The problem isn't it's one of those things that's not the people's fault, in the sense that planes that have taken away, I think since the 70s, 5 inches of leg room has been removed from a plane, so you can get an extra couple rows in the back.
Wow.
The average American size has increased like 23%. So, the average male in 1970 and the average male in 2025 is like 40 pounds bigger.
Well, we'll see with GLP-1s if that's true in the next 5 years.
And then your seat size, it hasn't shrunk as much as people think it has shrunk. The leg room has shrunk.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to lean back, especially on a longer flight, it's a total a-hole move. Here's the thing.
Do you not lean back?
I'd go maybe like a couple inches. I don't do the full recline. I'll do a couple inches. Here's the question I have for you, and I'm curious because I don't have children. I've seen 2 types of travelers that I think are not oblivious travelers with kids. One is if the kids start screaming, parent A sort of gives the kid an iPad, or they'll pick him up and take the child into the back of the plane and try to walk around. I totally get that instinct. I've seen another brand of person that goes above and beyond and like has handed out little gift bags to the 2 rows around the people that have earplugs, a pack of gum, and a little note that says, "Hey, I got a toddler. Sorry
really?
about that."
I've never seen that.
So I've seen both of those. And in my mind, the second person, it was appreciated, but like excessive in the sense of like, I get it. Your kid is, 18 months and they're going to visit grandma or whatever.
And their eardrums can't pop.
Yeah, so they're going to cry.
When they're flying, going up
but
and
if
down.
the kid is crying for more than 5 minutes or so, what do you...
I used to slap Gunner upside the head.
No, what do you...
And then I'd tape some furnace tape over his mouth.
No, but seriously,
and tell him to shut the hell up.
What would you do?
Or I'm going to open the emergency plane door, and we'll see you later, and you're going to miss the beverage service. That's what I tell him.
What is your expectation on that? Because I haven't had kids. I know that kids have inner ear issues that haven't developed
What
yet.
I used to do when I had him, and he was actually a very good traveler, but all kids are going to cry at that point. And I used to bring juicy fruit gum, and I would hand it out and make it kind of a joke. And I'd say, hey, if he could chew the gum, I'd give it to him. I brought it for him, but he's not old enough. And then I just explained to people, because a lot of people don't know that it's an eardrum problem. And I said, as soon as we get up and his ears finally pop, because they have to pop on their own, I have all this tape and all these games that people can see that I put on the back of the seat. Because when kids are younger, they love tape and they love colored tape. So I put colored tape all over the back of the seat so you can reach out and play with it. And as long as people see that you're engaged and you're trying to quiet the child and you explain that to them, it's the parents that sit there and are having a couple cocktails and don't give a and don't hear it anymore. It's like people in your neighborhood that have barking, yelping dogs. They don't hear the dog barking and yelping because it's their dog. It's like husband and wife, right? If there's some strife and they're kind of barking at each other, if you walk into their situation, maybe they're just kind of used to it, and it's the same with a baby. So the best thing to do, I do like having a gimmick of passing out some gum. That way, people are now with you and they understand that you understand.
Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5.
Number 4.
Did you watch the closing ceremony of the World Cup?
I watched the final match.
Did
you
you
talking about the halftime show?
Yeah.
The biggest debacle we've ever seen on televised sports history.
What are your thoughts?
Oh my God! It was so. I didn't realize that Chris Martin from Coldplay was in charge of it. It was the most ridiculous production. And it started before the game when Tom Cruise came out and did a dramatic reading. I'm like, what?
Was it too?
Why?
Was it? Some people are saying because he knew that Trump was there and they were trying to do something anti-Trump. Do you think it was that?
I don't know. It was anti-Trump.
Was it too up with people?
Well, it didn't make any sense. So first off, you have Tom Cruise doing a spoken word piece on a podium where it doesn't tie into anything. It's totally out of left field.
It would make sense if he parachuted in.
Well, not even that. It's like
On a motorcycle.
It seemed like a gratuitous, weird
He's Tom Cruise.
thing.
He's weird.
But it's like, let the guys play. Then halftime starts with Madonna, who is 70 now. Like, I don't know how old Madonna is. She's probably, Matt, can you look up? She 70, 71?
I don't know, but
Madonna's
she looked
pretty
like
old.
she was 18. Like her skin
And so she's got
Her
all-
plastic surgery, I think, finally fit. It calmed down, right? When you
Yeah.
first get it, she looked like she didn't look well, and then and then over time it seemed to kind of
She
shape
just looks like almost an AI version of an older Madonna. But then Chris Martin says, hey, let's get two of the world's greatest soccer players to be a prop for Madonna. So she has Ronaldinho on one side in a bright banana yellow sweatsuit and Ronaldo on the other side in a bright blue sweatshirt. So they look like Oompa Loompas. And Ronaldo he's gained a few pounds. He's enjoying his retirement, let's just say. So he is not a svelte midfielder anymore.
None of us are.
He is he's put on some pounds. And they don't have anything to do. So they're standing there next to Madonna.
Madonna, who's 68.
68 years old, so trying to look like she's 25. Then you go into BTS, who looks like also an AI-generated version of a pop band.
Yeah.
Then it goes through a couple other things, and then you have Jason Sudeikis and Coach Beard that, for the international audience, probably hasn't seen Ted Lasso. If I'm in, Cape Verde watching this game,
That's a good point.
I probably haven't seen all 3 seasons of Ted Lasso. It's like, who are these two guys?
Yeah.
And they hold up the substitution placard so that Justin Bieber can come out, who does a 4-minute ballad walking around the stadium.
Yeah.
In New Jersey.
He's back. The Biebs is
And I
back.
kept going, okay, this is going to parlay.
Shirt on or off?
I think his shirt was on. I'm like, okay.
Did he actually have a band playing this time?
No, he had an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, 'cause
doing a really, really, really melancholy ballad.
Sad song. That's his new
And so
album.
it's something about Hallelujah. And I'm like, okay, this is going to drop into like Shaq's going to pop out and do a rap thing,
it
and we're
going.
going to get it hyped. Nothing. It stays ballad the whole
No
time.
turntables and a microphone?
And then, of course, what comes next? Logically, Shakira with a big dance number. And Shakira looked great.
Yeah.
Shakira should have just been the show.
Sure.
So, again, total non sequitur. And then Chris Martin comes out with a children's choir and rainbows and butterflies everywhere, which is supposedly the F you to Donald Trump. But so that was completely ridiculous. More ridiculous is Spain wins in a we can talk about the strategy of Argentina later. Spain wins. They bring out the podium. They're giving them the trophy.
This is later.
Donald Trump smarms his way onto the podium and will not leave.
And he won't let go of the trophy.
It's stolen valor of accomplishment.
He always
has
does it.
nothing to do with Spain.
Yeah.
He has nothing to do with football. You know that he strong-armed himself into going down on the field because the FIFA president was in the same booth with him, and he was awarded the FIFA Peace Prize, which they invented for Donald Trump. And so he's standing to the side of the Spanish players, and he won't leave the podium.
Won't leave.
The FIFA president comes by and takes his arm to escort him off to the side. He wrangles his arm away.
Yeah.
He has to stand there and steal the glory of the Spanish team. That was the most embarrassing, small ego, like insecure thing I've ever. The president of Brazil didn't do that.
Trump
4
could
years
play
ago.
football in high school football. We call that swimming and swatting because he was shaking off
It's
the
an
president.
embarrassment.
And then he
Get off the stage.
He demanded once they gave the trophy that his hands were on the trophy as they were handed
He
off the
wanted
trophy.
to it's stolen valor. Like,
Yeah.
get off the stage.
So what about the game? You didn't like it?
I enjoyed the game. It was a tour de force by the Spanish defenders.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the game to know, like, people were coming down really hard on Argentina being thugs. I kind of like the thuggishness a little bit. Like, they're sort of the Oakland Raiders of the football world, and they knew that they had to be thugs in order to keep up with Spain. It is surprising that Messi did not get a shot on goal, I think, until extra time.
They
like
reminded me a little
110
bit when you
minutes.
think of thugs is the old Pistons, or even when you think of Karl Malone, the way that he played basketball, or Charles Barkley, and then mix that in with Air Force. I was born in Chicago, but we grew up in New Mexico. We would go to games when there was no shot clock, and the reason they invented the shot clock is because when Air Force would play New Mexico, and New Mexico had a great basketball team at the time. They played a place called the Pit. Air Force would come there and you would get to halftime, and the score would be 4-2. Because Air Force would go into a 4-man stall and just hang on to the ball. And they're like, you know what? We just got to make sure that we have one more basket than they do at the end of the game. And so they would stall. That's what the game felt like, was a big stall.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, I don't know enough about football to know, but I found it exciting. My, girlfriend / life partner is from Spain, so she was sending me pictures of the town where I'm going to visit in a couple weeks.
That's great.
And they had huge screens set up. The crowd in Madrid, and I've been to that square before, had to be 1 million people watching this with screens everywhere. So Spain deserved that win. I don't know if you caught Lamine Yamal's little brother. I think his name is Kane. He's like 3 years old.
Yeah, I did.
And he has free reign of everything because he's Lamal's little brother. He comes running out on the field to greet his brother. That kid needs his own TV show.
What about what the 21-year-old soccer player said to Messi?
I don't know what he said. Oh, are you talking about Jude Bellingham in the England game?
At the end of the game, he went over and gave him a hug and basically said, thanks for giving us a great soccer and carrying
No, I
the
didn't see
torch
that one.
and inspired me for the last, how long has he been playing? He's
Over 20 years.
He's 39. I think it's 21 years for the last 21 years.
The interesting thing to me, and I heard a couple sports commentators talk about this, is can the MLS find the checkbook to get some of these stars to come over before they're in their 30s? So, like, what would it take to get Jude Bellingham or Henrik from the blonde guy that was taking over the world, plays for Man City right now? Like, how much money do you need to give that person? Because if you had a couple of those stars, even if you had to pay them $100 million a year to come here in their 20s, like a Jude Bellingham, a Harry Kane, and a Henrik, like one of those guys that Americans go, oh, I remember that guy. He had the raccoon coming off the plane. Like, I remember that guy. Or, oh, Harry Kane, I remember him. Or Jude was great. Like, if they're saying, hey, Jude to him, I remember that guy. Or the goalie from Cape Verde, if it's like, oh, I remember him. Like, that's that town that only has 500,000 people in the whole country. If they could pay those guys to come into the MLS alongside Messi, I think you might see a bit more of a surge.
Yeah. Are you converted? Will you stay with soccer and football now? Will you go to MLS games? Would you get season tickets?
I go to a couple MLS.
What was the attraction and the connection for you? Because you really got into it this year.
I think one is looking at the ratings and interest, and when you go, okay, there's close to 2 billion people watching that final.
Yeah.
So clearly I'm on the outside looking in here, and it's on me. It's not on them to change and explain it to me. It's on me to go, why is this so big? And the level of passion, like when the Scottish fans were in Boston, like there's not a major league sports team in America that has that kind of passion. I don't care. You can go, oh, the Cowboys or the Mariners or the Seahawks, the 12s. The 12s don't hold a candle to the Scots. When you saw, people coming in from Brazil, dude, the 12s wouldn't last for 10 minutes at a Brazil match. So you see the passion and devotion that these people have for their teams, and it's like, okay, I need to understand this.
It's one of the reasons why it's sad that most Americans don't have passports, right? My son's getting ready to travel alone, and he has a passport. None of his friends have passports. Most adults don't have passports. It's interesting, when I was in Iceland a year and a half ago, and I remember sitting down at a table, and a girl asked me what I did, and I said, well, I do this, this, and this, and I live in Seattle, and Seattle was headed to the Super Bowl. And she said, where is Seattle? I've never heard of Seattle before. What is a Super Bowl? Who are the Seattle Seahawks? She didn't know, which is a really beautiful thing. And sometimes when we put America first, what soccer taught us is that we aren't Americans as much as we need to be world citizens. And what it also taught me, and I just made a decision, especially after seeing the way that our city treated each other, and the way that we loved each other, connected with each other, people that were complete strangers. I said, you know what? Never again on Airbnb am I ever going to write a negative review about someone, because I don't know the day that they're having. Even when they a guy wrote a really negative review about one of my homes a couple weeks ago, and I was so stinking pissed about it and wanted to go after him. But it's like, why am I going to put that kind of energy into the world? Because the majority of people that come, that stay at my properties, write great things and appreciate it. And then the other thing is to even commenting socially on social media online. I have found myself sometimes, especially in the political spectrum that we're in, sometimes trying to be smarter than other people or spike the football or going after people. And what it taught me is, even I try to not do that being in the media space. I have gotten caught up. Right, I've gotten caught up in thinking that it's us and them. Tomorrow night, I'm going to speak at a Seattle Parks meeting, and I'll talk more about that coming up. And I'd written a speech that was really about our school versus the school board versus Seattle Parks. And after seeing the World Cup, I decided, you know what? I have written a speech now, and I'll share it with you before we get out of here, that is not about us and them. That's what politicians have taught us. It is just about us.
Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5.
Number 5.
All right, guilty pleasure of what you're watching on the internet. I have made sure, especially when it comes to reels, that I time myself. People are so creative. A lot of times watching a reel on the internet is much more interesting, and it's better than something that you're going to watch on TV. So I rarely watch TV anymore unless I'm trying to catch something on the news or unless I'm trying to catch a live sporting event like the Mariners. I like watching the Mariners if I'm not going to a game. I shared with you last week that I found this guy that does a reel called Old Man Sailing. And he started just putting some reels out there. His grandson was helping him. And now he's become this. I saw him the other day. He's in a recording studio. Old man.
Nice.
You see, and you've seen those people really take off that didn't know they were stars, and now they are. So watching Old Man Sailing, now that the internet knows that I like Old Man and Old Men Sailing, now I got a guy that's old man fixing old motorcycles. And you come into his shop. He tears the hell out of you for buying whatever motorcycle that you brought him. He has 3 teeth, a cigarette. He's perfect. And he sits there and he rails on everyone. And he's absolutely serious about what he's going to have to do to fix this motorcycle. And then he fixes the motorcycle. And when he comes back, he gives you another talking to. And then the next guy comes in with a motorcycle. So old man fixing motorcycles, I love. But my favorite thing, and I asked my son this the other day.
I got to send you one. If you like the old men genre, there is a influencer, beautiful blonde young influencer, and she does a thing where she's like, I'm taking my grandpa to do stuff he's never done before. Today we're getting tattoos. So grandpa's got like 4 teeth. Grandpa, do you have any tattoos? Nope. And he's got to be like 89. Yeah. So they've gone like yoga with goats. She took him out on a stand-up paddleboard. Awesome. Like he got a tattoo. So I'll send it to you, and you just giggle for this guy.
There's some guys, and it's in the spirit of some of the great brass bands that you watch in New Orleans. These guys are out of Philadelphia, but I've seen them show up in Philadelphia, Atlanta. I've seen them show up in New Orleans and around the world. And they have, how would you explain the great brass bands down there, the great marching bands? Anytime there's a parade, or when my friend Mike got married down there at the end of the service, which we were doing outside, all of a sudden you could hear this brass band playing. They show up. We're second line dancing. Handkerchiefs are waving, and we're all the police escort comes. You see the motorcycles pull up, and then we have this brass band that's escorting us down to the hotel where they're going to have the reception. They do the same thing at funerals, where it starts initially with really sad music, and then as they're leaving the funeral, the music gets happier and happier and happier because you're celebrating someone's life. And the brass bands down in New Orleans are really amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, it has historical context going back centuries. There was a concept called a dirge, which was sort of a solemn musical event. And the second line comes from the fact that they were in the second line. Like you had your soloists in the front line, and then the second line were the rhythm section and these other players. And so what they started to do is it developed into a tradition. It's a crossbreed of like African influence, some sort of voodoo influence. You have different religious overtones from here or there, but there was one of the tenets that came through was that death was not the end.
Yeah.
It was a gateway to another dimension or another iteration of experience, and that in some ways you could celebrate that person's life for moving on. And so it turned into this thing where you would have the march going to the burying spot of the second line. So the second line is this drum pattern and also the soloist over the top of it. But what it became was then an invitation to the neighborhood to come and participate in your community. And so if you and I were getting a coffee and we're sitting out on the patio and you hear a second line, well, that's our invitation if we want to go and participate in our community, and it might be someone that we know.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of times if you're in New Orleans or other southern cities where everyone seems to know everyone, is because you know everyone.
And everyone sits on their front porch there.
Right. When you hear a second line, you go and you participate and you dance and you walk and you're like, are we here to celebrate a wedding? Are we here to celebrate a baby? Are we here because it's a funeral? Where are we second lining to? And then you begin to interact with actual human beings. So, and I don't know if I have all of that 100% correct, but that's the spirit of what I remember it being. And I think it's a beautiful tradition.
It's very different. It's like if you go out to Ellensburg and you're driving around and you see someone, you just give them a wave, right? Everybody waves. On the top of Queen Anne, everybody has a doodle. You can stop and ask what the dog's name is and pet the dog. No one will ever ask you what your name is, and they'll never ask you. People will be very polite, but people are very to themselves. Not in New Orleans. Not in Chicago, not in Dallas, not in any of those places. Anyway, how hard do you think it would be with a full-size second-line bass drum to run? How hard do you think that would be?
Very hard.
So what these guys do, it's a full brass band. And they train. They go out on a track and they train. These guys are in great shape. So they'll go to a place like Philadelphia, and they'll see in Philadelphia there's a lot of people because there's a Rocky statue there, and we've all probably seen that online. In fact, you'll see Sylvester Stallone sometimes blow people's minds because he'll show up at the Rocky statue. Or someone like Paul McCartney the other day, who was in Liverpool. He's driving by the Magical Mystery Tour bus.
Yeah.
He calls up Ringo. He rolls down his window, and he's looking up at the bus, and he shows his phone, and people are looking down there. They're going, holy shiznit, that's Paul McCartney in a car talking to Ringo, and we're in the Magical Mystery Tour. That's not the point of the story, though. Let's take you back to Philadelphia. So anyway, a lot of people in Philadelphia, and I've done this when I went to Philadelphia, is I went on a run. I ran up those stairs. I got my picture taken with Rocky, the statue, and then I kept running. What these guys do is they hide behind trees with all their second line instruments, and they wait for people to come to the statue. And once they start going up to the you'll hear the trumpet, dun 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 dun.
Nice.
Then the trombone, dun 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 dun, and then the drums, dun 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 dun, and then they pop out. And when the person starts running, they start running as fast as they can as a full-on brass band run team
Up the stairs?
And they will run anywhere, and and what it does is it scares the hell out of people because they don't know what's going on at first. They just hear this music, and someone is chasing them, and they turn around, and what do you do when someone's chasing you? You run, right? You run. And so their videos, it's the Voodoo Marching Band. Make sure you watch them online.
That sounds great.
Of them chasing people that go to the Rocky statue. Sometimes they'll do Chariots of Fire, and they do other music as well. And then they get the reaction when they finally meet up with the person, and they're all blunt because they run as fast as they can.
That's awesome.
With full bass drums.
Can I just say real quick, the antithesis of that I've seen is a tuba marching band.
Yeah.
That whenever there is like a KKK rally or a MAGA march, they get behind him and they play the doof music. It's like a dozen tuba players, and they just play that. It's the funniest thing. Guys get so mad because they're trying to chant white power, and it's like a dozen tuba players. I'll look them up. The Voodoo Marching Band. That's great.
Hey, you guys, don't go anywhere. You're about to hear from Team Lisa with a Y.com. We will see you on the other side of this.
Hey, it's Ron from Ron and Don Radio here with Team Lisa with a Y, our mortgage sponsor here. Lisa, I have a situation right now. The man has a house in Vancouver. The wife has a house in Seattle. They now have 2 kids and we need a bigger house. What do you do when you got 2 separate houses and now someone's a couple?
That's actually a pretty common situation, and we have a really good product for that. It's called Departing Residence, and what that program allows us to do is we can give that wonderful couple with their kids a new conventional mortgage, and we don't have to count the payment on either of their existing properties in their debt-to-income ratio if we know they're going to sell them, and maybe they want to keep them as rentals. Then we can give them credit for market rent as qualifying income without even having to get a lease agreement.
Wow, that's a really cool product. So if you find yourself in a scenario where I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how we're going to get the new house because we already have a house or we have 2 houses. I go to Team Lisa with a Y. What happens when I go to the website or I call you guys?
Well, we always prefer that you give us a call first because everybody's situation is unique and we want to really understand what you're looking to do. And
then you set up a Zoom call or in-person meeting or one or both, whatever's easiest?
One or both, yes, exactly.
Okay. So go to Team Lisa with a Y, that's TEAMLYSA.com for all your mortgage needs.
Today's show is made possible by your friends Ron and Don. When you're ready to sit down and strategize about your real estate journey, schedule your time with the guys at ronanddonsitdown.com.
Our building, I was in one building over where we used to park and all the studios were. There is nothing in that building. Nothing.
You ready?
Yep.
You ready, Mateo? Yeah, we're rolling. Episode 996, segment 2.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. And again, any mortgage questions you have, call Team Lisa.
With a Y.
With a Y.com. They answer morning, noon, and night on the weekends. And believe me, even if you're not buying, selling, investing now, any questions that you have about mortgages, they have been great partners for the Ron and Don Nation. And they're exclusive mortgage broker of the Ron and Don Show. Hey, I thought this was really interesting, and I've shared with you before. As a coach now at my son's school, one of the challenges that we really have with coaches, and
finding shorts short enough to show off your legs.
Yeah, one of the challenges that I have as a parent is I've had to learn to parent differently because of the way that phones now and tablets, and even we were just talking about. We don't watch a lot of TV at my house, but we'll sit down and watch reels. And in fact, we've had to say, hey, we're going to watch reels here for the next 20 minutes and then cut it off and really kind of plan that entertainment into our day so it doesn't overtake the day. And the next thing you know, you've been watching for 3 hours, which we can all do because the entertainment is so good and people are so creative. They did this study about eavesdropping and what they are finding out when it comes to eavesdropping. Did you read this article?
I did.
It seems like we as humans, and I notice this with our kids, when we're in a situation together and they have their phones, whether they're friends over that are visiting or whether we're in a team situation where they have their phones, it used to be even in football, when they had a break, they were allowed to grab their water and grab their phones. The kids would not talk to each other. It's interesting in practice now because we make them put their phones away and we lock them away. I'm starting to see kids talk to each other more. But even when we get back in the car, the first thing they all do is they all pull out their phones and they start looking at their phones. And they're probably, texting their parent and saying, hey, mom, dad, or who's ever taking care of them, I'm going to be home at 6. But then the conversations cease. And it is really hard to teach and coach in this kind of atmosphere. It was interesting when we were talking about Matt Damon's new movie earlier that was written back in 1200 AD. When you look at Homer wasn't actually a person. Homer was lots of people. It's kind of the way, and some people out there that believe that the Bible is that the things that happen, especially in the Old Testament, actually happen. I think if you go to that movie, a lot of things that you see in that movie that are so graphic there are a lot of the same things that you would see when you read the Bible, right? It's like, wow, if somebody, we like to play out the Jesus story and Jesus being the good guy and the 12 wise guys and the Marys and how this all worked out and the protagonist, antagonist. When you look at all the murdering that was happening back in the Old Testament, it doesn't seem like it's the same religion when it comes to Christianity, right? It's very unique and it's very different. Anyways, back in 1200 AD, most people didn't write, so most people couldn't read language. They didn't have reels to watch. They didn't have a Matt Damon movie to go to, so they wanted to be entertained. So what they did is they wrote poems. And that's really what this movie is. It's a poem. It's like 25 chapters in a book. And these poems are going, the reason they use iambic pentameter and they needed to make things rhyme is so the actors could remember it. But what you would do is you would go and you'd watch one of these plays, and then let's say you went on a Thursday, you go back Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That was kind of your entertainment when people couldn't read. And also when people couldn't write things down. What they've learned through this eavesdrop study is that a lot of us now are actually no longer talking. We're not talking to each other.
So in ingenious way, they did this experiment. So they asked for volunteers to download this app on your phone. And what you agreed to have happen is that I think it was 6 random times per day, your phone's microphone would turn on and it would record like 30 seconds or 45 seconds of what was going on. And so it could be anything. They said they had recordings of people in the bathroom. They had recordings of people at a school or on a Zoom meeting. There were people that were with their significant other in bed. You just sort of forget that you downloaded this app or you gave them permission. And so they end up with tens of thousands of these 30-second snippets across all these demographics. And so what they found is that the number of words that people are speaking each day has declined by a significant amount. They have data going back on similar studies years and years. And I think, if memory serves me right, it was something like people would speak 15,000 words a day back in time when you were at an office, and you're not for someone that like lived alone or worked alone, but if you were in a family and you were in a work environment where you had to go into an office, you would speak thousands of words a day because you are talking with your spouse, you're talking with your kids, you're talking with your coworkers, you're on the phone, you're doing deals, whatever it is. And so that has significantly declined by thousands of words per day. And then there's this subset of people that are speaking hundreds of words a day. Like they're not even getting to thousands of words a day that we've seen in America for decades and decades and decades, where people would communicate thousands of words per day. And they even throw in things like the incidental conversations you've had, where before you had like automated checkers. You used to go into a checkout line and you would talk to the teller. You would talk to the person in front and back of you of the line. There wouldn't be huge conversations, but a couple hundred words a day you would have with the bank teller. You would have with the butcher, with the baker, the candlestick maker. You're talking to them, and now all of those things have gone away. And they're trying to figure out, how has this changed society? How has this changed our brains of young people? How has this changed in the way that we feel about intimacy and relationships and even navigating interpersonal things?
Or trying to meet somebody. When people are always buried in their phone and it's impossible to have a conversation with them at the gym or the store because people are just buried in. When I ride my bike around Seattle, or I really pay attention now, since I'm always in the right seat now when my son's driving, so you get to look around and see a lot more. Everybody at every single stoplight is on their phone.
And there's a phenomenon among younger people where someone could have thousands, tens of thousands, or millions of followers in their online presence and have zero friends in real life. So like their only source of communication is setting up a phone, talking into the phone, and then seeing hearts and likes and comments in the feed section. That's a one-way communication style, and it results in kind of this weird, warped sense of entitlement, I think of a lot of like fitness influencers. I saw one the other day online. It was a woman, an attractive fitness influencer at a gym who sets up her camera right in the middle of, the lane where you push the sled down, you put a couple weights on the sled and it's designed to push the sled back and forth.
Yeah.
She sets up her little fitness influencer routine right in front of the sled. It's inside the sled lane. So she starts doing handstands and all of these things to get engagement on her social page. Meanwhile, these two guys are in the background waiting to push the sled down the sled lane.
Yeah.
And she is like, oh, why are you checking me out? And it's like she's going off on like, these guys are so gross and manosphere and like it's like, meanwhile she's in scantily clad
and you're watching it,
skin tight clothing. But I'm like, do you not realize that like you're in the sled lane and like go get a friend, like get a workout partner?
You're doing exactly what she wants you to do, though. You're engaged with her.
I'm engaged with it, but in a sense,
and you're talking
it's
about
not
it on your
positive.
Podcast. Yeah.
Like I feel badly for that young lady.
Getting people to engage is usually not positive. I'm going to read a letter here in a moment on the other side of this.
Does it feel bad for them? Like, go to the gym and work out if you want to work out.
But when you go to the gym and work out, which I will do later today and it did yesterday, there is no way to talk to anyone unless you have to have a personality like mine, which is I'm just going to go up and start talking to you, right? I go up to kids sometimes and I just say, hey, can I coach you up on something? And they'll say, yeah. And I'm like, put your phone down. Disconnect. Take your phone, lock it up. For the time that you're sitting there and you're on your phone, you could have met a friend or you could have done another rep or you could have been out of here 30 minutes ago. But you're on your phone. Take a break. Give your brain as a muscle. And for muscles to grow, they need to have a break. And it's really cool to see kids tell me to shut the hell up and mind my own business, old man.
Thanks, Boomer.
We'll see you on the other side of this.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. Tomorrow, I'm going to another community meeting. It's my 5th community meeting that I'm going to. And this is supposed to be the big meeting, but the other 5 meetings I've been to were supposed to be...
Tell us what the meetings are about.
The big meetings, too. So, you remember a number of years ago, and just 15 seconds on it, the field at Cleveland High School hadn't been built, and we found out about that, and so we went after the superintendent of public schools, Seattle Parks. The voters had voted.
Yeah.
The money had been passed in the levy, and we got their field built. 1907.
Well, that levy, real quick, to put a little bit of context here, the voters of the Pacific Northwest were given an option. Would you like your property taxes to go up? And we're going to renovate the athletic fields for all the public high schools. Yep. That was the levy, not just for one school. And the people stepped up and said, yes, we would voluntarily increase my taxes because I would like for all the schools to have proper athletic fields. And part of the language of that levy was that they should be relatively equal to each other. So in other words, you don't get one high school with a palace of a stadium and the other one gets a dirt field with a white line down the middle. They're supposed to have some sort of relative comparables to one another. And so that money was passed. It's been allocated, or the levy passed, the money's been allocated, and many of the schools, if not all of the schools that were listed in that levy, it's already completed. So the project was initiated, bid out, completed, and paid for years ago, except for one very specific high school.
Yeah, and if you don't know where Lincoln High School is, it's up in the Wallingford area, which is just probably 7 miles north of downtown Seattle. What has happened here in Seattle, which is very unique, when you think about our school, Lincoln High School, it's the oldest school. We were born in 1907. But then, a number of years ago in the 70s, it was closed down for over 40 years. The reason it was closed down is Lincoln was one of the schools, also the schools over in Magnolia and the schools on Queen Anne, where during, especially when you get in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and the greatest hits of the day, they were busing black and brown kids from all the way down south into these neighborhoods. And so the schools were virtually full, and then when they stopped busing, and we didn't have tech here yet, a lot of these schools didn't have the attendance and they closed. So when you look at where Ella Bailey Park is over in Magnolia, that school was boarded up for decades. Lincoln High School was actually boarded up for decades, and then they took it out of mothballs 7 years ago. Because the problem that we have now is with all these tech workers coming here, they've all had kids. All their kids are growing up. So now Lincoln High School has the smallest facility. There's no utility gym. There's no place to wrestle. There's nowhere to play volleyball.
How's their attendance compare, though?
There is nowhere for girls to have a locker room or boys to have a locker room. They have a shared facility. It's the smallest facility out of all the high schools now in the metro in Seattle. But our attendance is almost double of a place like Roosevelt. It's almost 2,000 kids, and it's growing, and there's nowhere to put these other kids. So anyway, there's a field 56 years ago. In fact, a guy wrote to me. His name is Tim Barr. He used to be the quarterback for Lincoln High School 56 years ago. And he sent me pictures, and he said, hey, what's the problem? Lower Woodland Field, which currently has fields right now, they're just in disrepair. He goes, that was our field. That's where we played football. It's right across the street from Lincoln High School. We had to walk a little bit, but that's where we played football. Currently,
and that park is still there, or the field is still there?
Oh yeah, we were out there. In fact, if you go there and it's over by the tennis courts or some of the baseball fields. Mostly adults play there now because what happened is Seattle Parks went in and they did this same thing at Ella Bailey. When these parks and these fields were falling apart, Seattle Parks said, we'll step in and we'll take care of them. But we need to generate money, which is fair. There's over 500 parks. In order to generate money for these 500 parks, which is 1,600 acres. 1,600 acres, think of an acre as a football field. 1,600 of those to take care of.
I'm going to be ignorant for a second. Is this close by that Green Lake complex of where all the fields and stuff?
That's Lower Greenland.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so it's that southern part of the like by the par 3 golf course.
The levee passed to go in and to fix up those fields.
Okay.
And in fixing up those fields, what they would do is they would say, hey, we're also going to make sure there's a utility field for the kids, and there's a football field there and a track and a place. And when we're not using it, which is most of the time, they're going to rent that back out to adults, and it's going to be a community field. The problem is in that area of Green Lake, there are second growth trees. Second growth trees. Do you know what second growth trees are?
The ones after first growth trees.
Yeah. So they're not the old like Green Lake was clear cut. Seattle was clear cut. All of Discovery Park was clear cut. All the trees that were planted there, and I know this, that you see in Discovery Park, a lot of those trees were planted just 10 and 20 years ago. I've been planting trees out there with an organization for the last 15 years because I use that park a lot. Anyway, fast forward, we've been having community meetings now for 7 years because every time we try to go and build a field, people will just say, hey, well, we're going to sue you. And we're going to sue you over some of the second growth trees there because a couple dozen of those trees have to be taken down. And so people in the neighborhood have become irate. At the same time, when you go out there, they're walking their dogs. It's not a dog park. You're not supposed to take your dogs out there. And also, they don't like football. They don't want to have football lights in a stadium. It's not a stadium. It's a practice field, right, that we're going to share. So nonetheless, there's going to be another meeting tomorrow. And I've actually gotten to know Ben, who is our superintendent, through this process. It's one of the reasons why
can I frame this up real quick to
I decided
understand it?
I was going to start coaching.
So on the one side, the levee is passed. Lincoln's the only high school that doesn't have a field. On the other side, and you guys have a spot where the field should go.
And it's where it used to be.
And it's where it used to be historically. On the other side is people from the neighborhood and other assorted
and people not from the neighborhood
that are opposed to you guys building, and they want to keep things status quo.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, great. And then there's people like Ben that wrote this on our kids' webpage the other day, and this is the kids who play football. Ben Wall writes, hey, if Lincoln football wanted a new field, they should have played better last year. They sucked. They had a record of 6-8 last season. That's weak sauce. Why don't you just use the existing fields, and adults have the right to play over there, hang on to the trees, and why don't you build a better football team is what Ben wrote. So he's writing those things to our kids. And some of the things that are written online from the neighborhood to our kids, I I can't even read. They're absolutely disgusting. So anyway, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow night. We're going before the Parks Board. And I'd shared with you a little while ago that I was going to do this speech about us and them, about old growth lumber, about how you're all hypocrites, move out of your 1909 Craftsman home, because that was lumber, old growth lumber from the east side, or old growth lumber that was clear cut in Seattle. That east side lumber was floated over Lake Washington. You are living in an old growth lumber house. Go pick builders that are tearing down all these old growth lumber homes and just throwing them in the garbage dump, because all the lumber that we're using now is from Canada. All the old growth lumber from around here has been harvested. So when you're looking around and you love these trees, these are second and third generational trees. We will go in and we've raised money to replant the trees, and we'll replant more trees. And you and I know here in the great Pacific Northwest, it's not hard to grow a tree with all the precipitation that we have. So anyway, I get 2 minutes. I timed myself last night. It's down to 2 minutes and 4 seconds. So I got to trim 4 seconds off somehow. Do you got a timer?
I can do my watch.
Look at your watch. I don't want to hear the timer. Don't interrupt me at the end, but just see how I do.
All right, you ready?
Hang on.
Mark, it's set. Go.
Hey, good evening. My name is Don O'Neill, and I'm assistant football coach at Lincoln High School, and I'm also a Lincoln parent. I respect everyone that's here tonight that cares deeply about Seattle's parks and trees, and I respect those that care about kids too. And like you, I actually care about both. But the other day, I was at Lower Woodland Field, and our football team was asked 4 times by other groups that had reserved and rented the field that we needed to move. In fact, there was a Frisbee group there, a kids' day group, there was an adult softball team, and even a co-ed adult soccer team. This happens when we're bused up to Ingram as well. We wait for over 2 hours for Ingram to practice, and then we end up having the light shut off on us late into the evening, and guess what? Then we rebus back home, and by the time my son gets there, he has to eat, he has to do his chores, he has to do his homework, and the next thing you know, he's back up at 6 o'clock. It's very, very difficult. It's also very humiliating to our kids. And remember this community field that we're talking about, it's a shared space. It'll be used more by adults than by kids. And please appreciate the fact that our kids have been patient, but we asked for action from the board tonight. And being shuttered for 40 years, Lincoln was reborn 70 years ago. And Seattle Public Schools, they determined that a field was needed 7 years ago. Born in 1907, we're the oldest public high school in Seattle. We have the highest enrollment, approaching 2,000 kids, and we're the only public school in the metro without a utility field, and we also have the smallest facility. Voters approved the funding 4 years ago. This is the 5th public meeting I've attended in the last 2 years. There's been more over the last 7 years, and my point is the community has been heard. Our superintendent's been heard. But tonight, it's time for the Parks Board to be heard. And please remember, the board is made up of volunteers. They take care of 500 parks, so be kind to them. And I do want to end with this, something I tell our players all the time, that gratitude determines our attitude, and our attitude determines our altitude in life. So tonight, I want you to know, I have gratitude for different perspectives, gratitude for our kids, their patience and their grit, and gratitude for a Parks Board that has had to deal with all of us. This is not about winning and losing. This is about finding a way forward that honors our parks and honors our kids, and a shared, thoughtful community space that we all can be proud of. We need more sports, and we need less screens, and we need action tonight. In closing, thanks for the opportunity to share. It's time to stop kicking the can on kids. That's when I'm going to kick a can. Again, I'm Coach O'Neill. I'm also Gunner's dad, and I'm proud to say that I am a Lincoln Lynx for life.
It's a good speech. You want your time, though?
Yeah.
2 minutes, 38 seconds.
Okay.
I like the speech, though.
I got to cut 38 seconds off.
Or just go right through the buzzer, which you've done for 38 years.
Don't think I won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to have a can. I did this is the second time I've spoken to this board.
Well, hopefully get some action on this. It seems like it's destined for some sort of litigation, but maybe that's the.
There's a coach at O'Day who's on the Parks Board. He was going to retire. His son was a very famous player at the University of Washington, and then he went on to play at USC, and then he went on to play in the NFL. And he told me when I had to go over to O'Day for a concussion protocol, we have to play them this year. We have to play Eastside Catholic. We have to play it's going to be very hard for us to compete with not having a facility. I mean, it's going to be very, very hard for us to compete. And you walk into their gym. I walked into their gym. There's probably 200 championship banners in that gym from all the excellence of that school. And he came over and he gave me a hug. He said, Coach O'Neill, he said, I heard you at the last board meeting. He goes, you're the guy that kicked the can? I said, yeah. He said, I'm not leaving until we have set in motion. We're going to make sure that field gets built for Lincoln High School.
That's great.
Yeah. So thanks to Coach May from O'Day for doing that and getting it done. And thanks, you guys, for listening to this episode of the Ron and Don Show. We sure do appreciate it. Don't forget, if you need us, we do something called a Ron and Don sit-down. What is that? Yeah,
we sit down to a bespoke plan for your real estate journey. We want to meet you where you're at. If you need some help getting financing, we send you over to teamlisawithany.com. If you need to strategize about what type of housing, maybe you need to set up a family trust. There's a lot of, maybe you're finding multifamily. There's a lot of different things that we can help you with. It all starts with a sit down where we see, hey, are we going to make a good team, and are we ready to take the next step? RonandDonSitDown.com.
You think I should kick an empty can or a full can?
I would get a big can, like a
bucket.
No, like go get those old, the 3-gallon San Marzano tomato can.
Oh,
get one of those and take all the tomatoes out.
I was thinking of maybe stopping and getting a Colt 45. And just downing that thing right before I give the speech.
That's not a good look.
The speech might be 5.5 minutes, but I'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. This speech is sponsored by Colt 45. Hey, you guys, once again, thanks for producing today's show. I do want to let everyone know Ron's going to be on vacation. I'm going to be gone for a bit, so we're going to take a couple weeks off. And then when we come back, it'll be more of the Ron and Don show. So a lot of people get mad at us sometimes when we're not doing our show every week. I appreciate that because it means that I miss us. And at the same time, Ron's got to go to Spain, and I got to do some stuff in my life, in my own personal life as well. So, and Matt, you got stuff to do, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Very busy.
I got all kinds of things.
Very busy. Very, very busy being a scout leader. So in the meantime, you keep your head up and your shoulders back. And don't forget that you've been listening to the Ron and Don Show all night on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, it's G-Force O'Neill. Thanks for listening to my dad and his boyhood friend, Mr. Ron.